Oh, hamstring. Sniper, take the other picture.
A stinking Browns fan? Are you kidding me?
I don't care about no damn Raz score, Casey.
Scam of the day, scam of the day, scam of the day.
Welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Not who you wanted to see, Al. Welcome to Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman. I'm Tom Brenneman. Stand in, Reed Mouse. This show is powered by United Dairy Farmers. We come your way 10
A.
to 12.
P.
Yep, that's right. We did it. Eastern Standard Time. We have a fun show for you today. We're going to talk about the Reds. We're going to talk about the Bengals. Austin Elmore, co-host of Cincy 360 on 1530, will be on the show in just a few minutes at 10:15. Tracy Jones will be on at 11:30. The Reds lost again to the Milwaukee Brewers yesterday. The nightmare's finally over. And you might be a bit harsh by calling the Reds playing the Brewers a nightmare, but I don't know what else to call it at this point. They won 3 games in the season series against the Milwaukee Brewers. They get shut out once again by Fastball Freddy. Fastball Freddy has 2 starts this year in which he gave up 0 runs. Both have come the last 2 times he pitched against the Cincinnati Reds. He struck out 13 over 6 innings. And 2 starts against the Reds this year, 12 innings pitched, 19 Ks, 2 walks, 5 hits given up. The Reds are a game and a half out of first place, but that's not the only sporting news that happened in this world. Last night, the Angels announced that they took Shohei Ohtani off the trade market. People had been speculating where he would wind up for weeks, for months. It turns out that the Angels are keeping him right there and are going to try and re-sign him. And not only that, they bolstered their roster, and they're going to make a final push at the postseason, a puzzling move that many thought. But they got Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, taking one of the Reds' potential targets off the trade market. And they did that trading Kai Busch and a catching prospect, Edgar Quero. The Dodgers made another move after getting Kike Hernandez. They traded Noah Syndergaard for Ahmad Rosario straight up. The Dodgers always seem to be making not just big splashes, but small moves like this every single trade deadline. They are one of the most mystifying teams in Major League Baseball that it seems like everything they touch turns to gold, and then they get in the postseason and don't have a whole lot of success. In the NFL, Jim Irsay tweeted that running backs just don't matter a year before the Colts star player, Jonathan Taylor, is up for contract, so that's pretty amazing. And in other sporting news, former intelligence officer David Grush testified before Congress just saying that aliens and UFOs exist. Of course, the Cincinnatians knew that because we had to face Ben Roethlisberger for a decade and a half, eh? Eh? It's because he's ugly.
Yeah.
You got it?
I got it.
Got it? All right, guys. The fellows over there, Jacob, Elliot, how are you guys doing?
Good, Reed. I'm good. Elliot?
You look good in that Bengals orange.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
How soon after the Super Bowl did you buy that?
I bought it there, in the stadium.
You bought it in the stadium.
In the stadium.
Where does that rank in your top moments of your life? Being in this, I know they lost, but just getting to see the Bengals play in a Super Bowl.
Literally until Joe Burrow, that incomplete pass at the end, I was convinced we were winning the game. So right until clocks hit zeros, it was number 1. There was nothing like that.
Elliot,
Yeah.
how are you?
What a time to be alive, Reed. It's a great day. The Brewers series is over. No more Brewers. The Reds are very good against everybody except for the Brewers. Bengals season getting underway soon here. It's a great time to be alive.
Am I the only one that's just absolutely juiced by all these training camp clips? No. Football cannot get here close enough. I know Casey has to feel the same way.
I'm literally just like shaking over
it's the
here
best.
with excitement.
We're so close.
The NFL season.
close.
The NFL season is the best season. I just love the NFL season so much. It's like every Sunday when I watch every slate of games, and then I don't know what I'm going to do for Red Zone this year. I didn't get what's his name?
Hanson?
Yeah. So that's YouTube now. Is that right?
Yeah, YouTube TV.
I don't know if I'll get that. But
They could have priced that quite literally anything. and I'll give them my money. I mean, not having red zone and being able to switch back and forth through all the games is just not an option.
I got YouTube TV back when it was $45 a month. It is, in the 3 years that I've had it, has doubled its price.
Yeah.
It is every bit of $75 a month now.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Paul?
So last night, Reed, I thought I beat the golf leagues. Everett Henry tweeted, golf leagues ruin the sport, or leagues ruin golf, whatever he tweeted. You tagged me in it. I responded, and I said, I beat the leagues once in a lifetime. Dare to dream. So I thought I beat the leagues.
Oh, no.
I thought I beat the leagues.
You were behind a league, weren't you?
I was the first group behind the league.
Yeah.
I waited.
That's worse than not golfing.
It was. I, honest to God, I paid the green fees. I was on the third hole. I almost just walked off the course. I waited almost 10 minutes a hole. I played 9 holes. Usually, if I'm playing on my own and I don't have anybody in front of me. Now, some people might say this is too fast. You don't get your money's worth. But I can play 9 holes in about an hour and 35 minutes just on my own if I want to. Yesterday, it took me almost 2.5 hours for 9 holes. I mean, it was just brutal.
Have you ever walked off a course for whatever reason?
Rain a couple times.
Okay.
Like when I literally couldn't even see the green. But I don't just leave. Like I'm not just like picking up the sticks if I'm shooting 100.
My ADHD kicks in sometimes. I'll go out and play by myself, and I'll just pay for 9. Play the first 3 holes, get behind somebody. I'll skip over to hole number 6, play 2 holes, play number 9, and head in and just play like 6 holes out of the 9. Or I just leave sometimes. If it's too backed up, I'll just be like, that's enough. Also, I don't pay for golf here in Hamilton, so that's
true. Now, I will say it was all worth it because we got backed up so much. The groups behind us got backed up so much too that there was I guess a man and his son that was playing behind us, about my age probably, and the dad. Very nice guy. I said, hey, do you guys want to play together? Because we're all just backing up anyway. Might as well just join groups. He was like, yeah, no problem. We play about 2 or 3 holes, and I was playing pretty well. He looks at me on the green of one of these holes, and he goes, hey, I got to ask you, are you a scratch 1.2? I looked at him. I laughed in his face because I thought he was kidding. Thought it was a shtick.
Are you humble bragging right now?
And he goes... And I could tell like he was being very sincere. And I said, oh, sir, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm a 16.4. I said, I'm no good at all. And he goes, I would have never guessed anything more than 10. I almost just I texted one of my friends. I should have shook his hand. I should have never played the sport again. I did. I played pretty well yesterday.
That was a nice humble brag.
Shot a 42.
Sticking to that club.
That was a
fitting
nice
lady.
humble brag, Paul. It's not the best humble brag I've ever heard in golf. One time I was playing with my friends, and this guy's about 250 out on a par 5 and just laces a 3-wood right in the middle of the green, sticks. And the only thing he says is he turns to us and goes, yeah, that's going to be a big divot to fix. I was like, that's the greatest comment you can ever say.
Yeah.
Casey, are you as excited as Jacob that all these training camp videos have come out?
Yes, absolutely. I am so excited to start talking football again. And, we already know this, NFL's king. I feel like I was in dormant for a while. Hibernating, and now I get to finally come back out of the cave and be a part of the conversations again. So very excited for football to come back.
Are we worried that there's a little bit of disruption? Already a fight, day 1 of training camp? I mean, that's
just a competitive fire, baby.
That's what
it
we
just
like
gets
to
the
see.
Juices going.
You know what's funny is if the Bengals were a dumpster fire the past few years, the conversation would be that this Bengals team has no chemistry. Are you kidding me? Everything, it's just a dumpster fire in there. But because they've been good, like, dude, the competitive nature of this team is through the roofs. I can't believe it.
I do not like that it was Orlando Brown. I feel like as the new guy in the locker room, starting to fight with an undisputed leader like Trey Hendrickson on day 1 might not be the best way to set your foot as a leader of the O-line,
right.
A leader of the offense. But yeah, I mean, it seems like his quotes at the end of the day seemed like it was all right. So
the one thing
I have no
that
issue.
I'll add to that is Trey Hendrickson had claw marks on his neck.
Yeah.
Trim your nails, buddy. Like, come on. Like, Jesus Christ. What are we doing? You try to kill people out there with those things. My Lord.
Jacob asked if we're fired up for training camp. I cannot get excited for football until after this week because as a baseball fan, this is truly one of the best times in the year. Just the trade deadline. Baseball does a few things better than most sports. They used to for forever have the best offseason, but because of, I think LeBron moving down to Florida and all these moves that happen in the NBA is quickly surpassing what baseball does in terms of the offseason. And the other trade deadlines are catching up, but baseball still hones the last week of the season, getting these rentals, all these trades, all these teams buying, selling. It's the talk of the town for a month here in baseball. It's actually one of the only times where baseball is truly in national news. Is this team going to buy? Is this team going to sell? What's going to happen? Luckily, the Angels didn't trade Shohei Ohtani for draft picks because you can't do that, Colin Cowherd. But actually, last night at my adult league baseball game, a guy came up and we were talking about a trade that happened. I think it was the Dodgers trade, Kike, not the Ahmad Rosario for Noah Syndergaard. And this guy looks up to me. He's like, when is the trade deadline? Yada, yada. He's like, oh, it's this week. He's like, I feel like baseball doesn't advertise when their trade deadline is. I was like, I feel like that's the only thing they advertise. Like at times it feels the only news that you ever hear is who's going to go where, what's going to happen. Is Juan Soto going to get the biggest package ever? All these things that happen at the trade deadline. It's truly one of the most exciting times of the year. And the Cincinnati Reds, for the first time in a couple of years, if not longer, really have some big decisions to make. Are they going to move off of the Rookie of the Year from 2 years ago, Jonathan India? Are they going to get some starting pitching in return? So many things to talk about. We've been talking about it on this show for weeks, if not months. We're going to talk about it with Austin Elmore in a few minutes, and we're going to break down really what the Reds can do at this trade deadline as it's going to be coming around in the next week. So, guys, I got to ask a question for the Reds fans in the room. I know you haven't hit the panic button, and I'm not insinuating that you should because you shouldn't. But are you in the room, the panic room? Have you opened up the door? Has the button, the glass casing in Deal or No Deal, has it at least been lifted? Is your hand hovering above it? Or are you still well outside the panic room, and you're like, hey, this storm's not going to hit us. We're fine. Too much young talent. Too many positive vibes going forward. Because if we've shown one thing over the Reds, and I'm trying not to be too harsh as the Reds, the Reds hater in the room. I'm trying to be unbiased, but it's hard to be unbiased. And you know what? I'm not even going to give my best foot forward for that one. But the Reds can't beat the best team in the division. They face good pitching, and the bats go quiet, and that is something that we talked about. Are you in the panic room? Are we pressing the panic button anytime soon?
No, I'm not. I'm not worried. We're done playing the Brewers. That whole hill is gone. We had our chance to, turn the tables and beat them this last series, and we didn't do it. So that's now on the back burner. We have, 50-something games against the rest of the league. Let's beat those guys. Let's win the division. And if we don't, we don't. I mean, I'm not a guy that says we need to go, to the Final Four to be happy this year. I think, there's a lot of good things going on this year.
Who did say that?
That I don't know. That you can be happy about. I mean, the lineup's great. There's going to be ups and downs. You have a lineup with an average age of 25, I think was the stat when you're running, the ideal group out there every day. Yeah, I think this might – I don't want to say that losing games recently after the All-Star break has been a good thing because it hasn't. You always want to win games. But as someone that really didn't want to trade and go all in, I don't think this has been the worst-case scenario for the Reds.
You know what's funny about the Brewers series now officially being over is the fact that it doesn't even feel like it's a division race going forward. It feels more like a wild card race in the fact that it feels because you don't play them.
Right. In
your scoreboard watching it. I mean, it might as well be a team in another division at this point. It's still 2 months left, and you're not going to play the Brewers anymore. It's just such a unique faction and the way that the new scheduling is set up, and we brought it up multiple times. And it's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out going forward. But one thing before we get to Austin Elmore, someone said I'm drinking fountain Coke at 10 in the morning, or I'm a hillbilly. Come on, it's iced coffee, guys. It's 95 degrees, and I can't be drinking hot coffee.
Oh, it is so hot. I walked outside this morning, and it was just like it hit me like a brick wall. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It's going to get even hotter. It's going to get even hotter.
And Paul's still going to ask to sit outside at lunch.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no
crazy.
doubt. There's no doubt.
Absolutely crazy.
There's no doubt.
All right, well, We teased him. It's the co-host of Cincy 360 from ESPN's 1530, Audie Elmore. Austin, as the most handsome guy on Cincy 360, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. You got to throw a splash of almond milk or something in there.
Oh, no, it's black as can be. Black as night. That's the only way.
You got to put a splash of something.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Oh yeah, I got some right here. I put a splash of almond milk in it.
How do you milk an almond? Do almonds have nipples?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm not here to say it's not possible.
All right, Austin. So the Reds lost another series against the Milwaukee Brewers. The trade deadline is coming forward. Game and a half out. Do you think that the Reds should be buyers? Do you think the Reds should stay put? Do you think that the Reds should get rid of Jonathan India for some prospects? There's so many moves that the Cincinnati Reds can do going forward. What do you think, as a sports talk show host here in the city, what do you think the Reds should do at this trade deadline?
Well, as you know, you have to try to look at every angle of these things. And at first, I was very much, don't trade Jonathan India. I have no interest in trading Jonathan India. And then I started looking around. I started looking at the numbers. I started looking at, okay, yeah, I'm okay if you trade Jonathan India. But I'm like, no, they don't really need to go and be buyers. They don't really need to be aggressive. It's not about this year. It's about the next several years. But then I'm like, well, a starting pitcher would be nice since the other two can't seem to get on the field. But, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'm okay with this team as is. Against everybody besides the Milwaukee Brewers and the Atlanta Braves, who they have played them tough, they at least look like a feasible team against the Atlanta Braves. The Reds are pretty damn good. And I don't want to mortgage what goes for the next 2 or 3 years for this season, because I don't think they're one player away from winning the World Series. I don't think they might not be 2 players away from winning the World Series. And we don't know what TJ Antone is going to look like when he gets back. We don't know if Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo are going to be sustainable for the rest of this season, because they haven't been sustainable so far in their career. If you can get something out of Jonathan India, controllable young starting pitching this year, I'm okay with it. But really, I don't know that they need to make a move and mortgage what, we had to go through that 100-loss season last year to get to this point, and it's about more than this season. It's about the next 4 or 5. And so to me, I'm totally okay with them if they just stay put where they're at.
Do you think the city's ready to lose a guy that, for all intents and purposes, was kind of the face of the franchise for the past 2 years, and Jonathan India won a Rookie of the Year back in 2021? A month ago, when the rumors started swirling, when all these rookies come up and they say, Jonathan India, his spot doesn't look as clear, doesn't look as crystal clear as it did when the season started. Do you think this city is ready to lose a guy like Jonathan India? Do you think the city will go up in arms if he gets traded?
If there's a time to do it, it's right now, when all the attention is kind of on the Bengals as well, after they have started training camp and lost a bunch of games to the Brewers. I think so. And a lot was made when Joey Votto came up about the clubhouse and being able to, don't mess up the feng shui of the clubhouse. That was insanely overblown. And while Jonathan India, I do think, is a leader, and I do think is a quote-unquote face of the franchise, I don't know that losing him in the clubhouse would be as big of a deal as we might seem to think it is. Fans would be pissed, but fans are always pissed. That's just life of being a fan. And I think most people would understand you still have Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain and Spencer Steer and CES, and now all of a sudden Will Benson and TJ Friedel look like they are big league outfielders. And so you still understand that the next several years are going to be filled with those guys that are under team control for a long time. And moving on from India is not the worst thing in the world. He's kind of the odd man out. He only plays one position. He's not a very good defender. His numbers have dropped in 2 consecutive years after the Rookie of the Year season. So I think fans would get over it eventually, especially if this team continues to play well. But, yeah, I mean, you have to be ready for that. If the last 2 years have taught us anything, you have to be ready to say goodbye to things you like.
You mentioned it. You got to trade him when the value is at its peak, and going forward, that value is going to continue to dwindle because his role in the team is getting smaller and smaller by the day. Mm-hmm. Do you have any concern with the rookie's ability to play in marquee games? Because, this lineup hasn't, this big, high potent high-octane offense hasn't shown very well against the Milwaukee Brewers, who we all acknowledge has a great pitching staff, has very talented arms, but the offense kind of goes by the wayside in these marquee games. Is there any cause for concern in these rookies' ability to perform in marquee games?
Maybe just a teaspoon of concern. I'm not sure. I mean, 27-30 against teams above 500. A good portion of that came before the rookies got to the big leagues. They've been very good since Matt McClain and Ellie De La Cruz have gotten here. They don't strike me as a group that is afraid of anything. Like, I don't think that they fear a big game. I don't think that they fear a big opponent. I mean, you've seen the way they've gone toe-to-toe with the Atlanta Braves. I just think the matchup with the Brewers is just not a good one. I wonder if other teams will try to copy that when, they play the Cincinnati Reds. But, they go into Dodger Stadium coming up, and I don't think that's a big deal for those guys. I don't think that that's something that they are concerned about. Like, yeah, they're happy to be there, and this is cool. This is a cool moment. First time in your big league career that you're playing at Dodger Stadium, and, all the historic parts around that. They went to Wrigley Field for the first time and swept the Chicago Cubs a couple of weeks ago. They went to Fenway. They went to They went to Fenway and took care of the Boston Red Sox. So I don't think that sort of thing is something that will. I don't think the moment can be too big for these young guys because they don't know any better. They don't fear anything. So that's not something I'm too worried about. But just the Brewers in and of themselves in these big games, it did seem like they were pressing a little bit. And you just don't want that to snowball.
Absolutely. We talk about, talent being moved here in the Queen City. The biggest trade that had already happened is us getting Elliot Rearing here at Chatterbox Sports. Our mutual friend Elliot Rearing has been on an anti-Ian Jabot tirade for the better part of a month. I haven't seen this much anti-Great Britain propaganda since the Boston Tea Party. A little inside baseball. He tells me that you share a same disaffection for Ian Jabot. What more can this man do to get some confidence from you and Elliot?
I was just talking about him on the air yesterday that I had to give him credit because I think he has allowed one run in his last 7 appearances. He has been solid out of the bullpen for the Cincinnati Reds. But there was a significant stretch of time, and Elliot knows this, and Elliot knows better than anybody because he looks exactly like Ian Jabot, that in high-leverage situations, he was one of the worst pitchers in baseball. He was atrocious. Very, 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 very bad. And for some reason, the Reds kept putting him out there in those situations. It seems like 2 things have happened. A, he's been out there in less of those situations. He's been more calm, and he's gotten more outs. And B, he just is throwing strikes more than he was previously. He was putting himself in so many bad counts. But if he keeps doing what he's doing, Ian Jabot, watch out. I mean, they desperately need some sort of consistency, guys that can actually throw strikes out of the bullpen. And it's funny, every time, and I'm sure Elliot experiences this now too, every time he comes into the game, my phone just blows up. Twitter mentions like crazy, like, okay, here it goes, here we go. And for the last 7 times, he's been pretty dang good.
Yeah, I think we put this up. Opposing hitters slash lines against Ian Jabot when there's nobody on base is actually better. Hitters are batting better when there's nobody on base than when they're on base. Yeah. So high leverage situation, Ian Jabot has been maybe better than our brains remember. Elliot, you got anything?
I had a Google Doc going for a while that I would just update every day with his numbers because I was something I would talk about every day, but I haven't been able to update that because he's actually been good.
Elliot, anything for Audie?
Yeah. Hey, Austin, I'm a big fan of your work over there on ESPN 1530. I've been thinking about this bullpen, and we just talked about it a little bit.
Hold on a second. Reed said this was a trade, but did we get anything in return? Was it a player to be named later?
You got to come on. You got to come on off the bench for a 15-minute segment on July 27th in the year of our Lord 2023.
Okay. That's the trade. I've been watching this Reds team, and for the life of me, it's not just Ian Jabot. It's guys like Derek Law. It's guys like Fernando Cruz. When these guys come into the game, I'm still concerned. And I'm going to be proven wrong time in, time out. Every time they come in, they get the job done, but every single time I am nervous. Do you share the same feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went on a tirade yesterday about how you can't have defensive indifference in a game less than 6-7 runs with this bullpen. And, it put him almost in a terrible situation the other day when Yelich hits the 3-run home run. But what if you just throw the guy out at second base when your best defensive catcher, Luke Maile, is in the game because you have minor league pitchers coming out of the bullpen to face the best team in the National League Central and the Milwaukee Brewers? Yeah, I'm extremely nervous every single time. The only person I even feel good about, honestly, is maybe Buck Farmer. I mean, Diaz right now looks like he's gassed. He's a little bit exhausted. It doesn't seem ever easy with Alexis Diaz, at least in the last couple of weeks. Lucas Sims a little bit was one of those guys where you feel good about, but for the most part, I don't feel good about anybody. Like Fernando Cruz, I think could be a really good relief pitcher, but he gets so caught up in the moment. Like you ever notice he'll throw a pitch and he'll walk almost all the way to home plate because he's so excited to get the ball back. And he's just like talking to himself the whole time. It's like, dude, you need to calm down and throw a strike here. There's a lot of inexperience, but the crazy part is there's also a lot of experience. Like Derek Law has a lot of big league experience. Yeah. Alex Young has a lot of big league experience, and they still don't seem to be somebody that you feel confident in when they come into the game. So yes, I certainly share that feeling.
But as little of confidence as we have in the bullpen, Andrew Abbott, one of the rookies that have come up this season, we had the debate yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. I still think right now, if Hunter Green returns from injury in August, right, maybe middle of August, if the Reds were to make the postseason, I think Andrew Abbott goes game 1 in a postseason series. What about you?
I think so. There would be no reason to put Hunter Green in the first game, unless he comes back in the next 2-3 weeks and he's fantastic in the month of September. I mean, there's no reason you could start anybody else. None. Not even close.
I agree.
And if they would, there would be such a there's already a ton of people that question the analytics of this organization. There would be a lot more questioning them then. But yeah, there's no reason anybody other than Andrew Abbott.
Austin, if you were a betting man, which I assume that you are,
I'm not.
Would you say that the Reds make the postseason at this very moment?
Yes, I would. I think they'll win the National League Central.
Okay, you think they'll win the division?
Yeah,
they certainly have the most talent.
I don't trust Milwaukee. What I'm most interested in is what does Milwaukee do at the deadline? If they get one, maybe two bats, it's going to be tough for the Reds. But Milwaukee has a difficult schedule as well. The Reds loosen up a little bit in September. But I think now that you've got the Milwaukee series behind you, I worry a little bit about Elly De La Cruz and him not being able to adjust at the plate. But I think they have enough talent to win the National League Central, and Milwaukee does not have enough offense. And if they go through a lull in their bullpen at any point, it's going to be a rough stretch for them. I think the Reds are the better team. I think they'll win the National League Central.
I think there's a third team that every time I get on X.com, all anyone's talking about is how the Cubs just keep on winning ball games, playing the best ball in the National League. But I digress. Go up to Wrigley Field for 4 games next week. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it rolls.
4 night games, too. What's up with that? That never happens.
Yeah, it's midweek, and I just – when they play on the weekend up at Wrigley, they're always day games. But you'd figure at least that the final game of the series would be a day game. I don't know.
It seems like something's up there. After a long flight to L.A. and one day off, something maybe you guys moving game times around. I don't know.
So you think that more rest is gonna hurt the Reds?
It reeks of Cub. I don't know. Something's going on.
Hey, the Cubs smell nice.
No, they are. The Cubs are an interesting team. They're fun. And David Ross, first team all good guy. Love that dude. So
it's great.
When the Cubs are good, baseball is fun.
Austin, you got right to my heart. You got right to my heart right there.
I used to hate the Cubs more than anybody in sports ever. Used to hate them.
They're the premier franchise of Major League Baseball.
No, it was primarily because of comments like that when they were awful. But then 2015, 2016 came around, and every dude on that team, with the exception of Javier Baez and I guess eventually Addison Russell, were likable dudes. Like, they were all likable guys. Fun, easy to root for. Ever since then, I've been kind of fond of the Cubs.
You are the only person in this city that actually likes Anthony Rizzo, and I appreciate that because I
love Anthony Rizzo.
Gosh, I like this guy. Elliot. All right. Do we think that the Joe Burrow contract gets done this weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
You think Monday morning we're waking up to a new present?
Yeah, it might even be Saturday morning.
All right.
I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge, but yeah, I think I keep hearing people say, oh, it'll be done by Friday. It'll be done by Friday. And nobody actually knows. Nobody's in those conversations. But I do get the feeling that, T. Higgins was tweeting out some strange stuff yesterday. There seems to be like a vibe, according to, I was reading Paul Dehner Jr. and said that there was just something different about the practice. I feel like it's going to get done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, everything says that Joe Burrow will be the highest paid player in NFL history. That tells me one of two things. One, that once again, the city of Cincinnati is at the epicenter of the National Football League, as it always is.
Yes,
and
has been forever.
The question that persists is, do we think that this hamstrings the Bengals' financial flexibility in the future? Do you think that this hurts the roster long term?
Yeah, I think it would be foolish not to say that. A lot of people say, oh, he's going to take a team-friendly deal or he's going to take less money. There's a difference between taking less money and taking a team-friendly deal. Like, you can still get a ton of money and it can still be team-friendly based on the way that you structure the contract. I think he's going to get $280, $290, $300 million. I think it's going to be maybe longer than 5 years. I think they're going to put themselves in a position where over the next 2 or 3 years, they can lock down at least T. Higgins, maybe Logan Wilson. Wilson might be the odd man out. But yeah, this happens across the NFL. Every time a quarterback gets paid, you have to make concessions in other parts of the ball. The Kansas City Chiefs had to deal with this on their defense after paying Patrick Mahomes. They've had to deal with it at wide receiver, letting Tyreek Hill go after paying Patrick Mahomes. Every single wide receiver that was on their roster in the playoffs last year for the Kansas City Chiefs got to Kansas City that season. So there's turnover like that. And if you trust your quarterback, if you trust your coach, which I think the Bengals do, and everybody believes that Joe Burrow is a guy who can make other people better, well, then you are going to have turnover, whether it be at tight end, like they've done with Hayden Hurst, now getting Irv Smith, or whether it be at wide receiver, where they just drafted 2 guys and Tyler Boyd's probably out the door, or whether it be at running back, where Joe Mixon's days are numbered as well. That's part of life in the NFL, and you have to be able to keep it affordable on the offensive side of the ball. And I think now they're going to put a big emphasis on drafting young players on defense as well, which we saw in the draft. But yeah, it absolutely hamstrings the team. I don't know if it's a bad thing because everybody would rather have a top 5 quarterback than anything else. But it creates some creativity in the cap that you have to work through.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil, right? It's undoubtedly that it's going to hamstring what they can do with other marquee players, but if you have a great quarterback in this league, if you have a coach that at least can create great chemistry, you're going to win a lot of games in the National Football League, and I think the Bengals are going to be good for at least a decade. Final football question I have for you before I let you go. Back in 2012, the Sydney Yellow Jackets played the Vandalia Butler Aviators, and a young chipper, Austin Elmore, had 2 tackles in that game, including 1 solo tackle. Does the city of Sydney still refer to that game as the Elmore game?
No, they don't. I think that was I think Taylor Decker played in that game, maybe.
Really?
They had 2 guys that went to play D1 college football. One of them's in the NFL right now, Taylor Decker. I did not get a lot of pass rush against Taylor Decker in that game as a defensive lineman. But yeah, I had 2 solo tackles, and that was basically the highlight of my high school career, or 2 tackles in general, 1 solo.
People in Sydney are still talking about that game, Austin. Hey,
people in Sydney were excited because we had gone 0-20 the previous 2 seasons, and we won 4 games that final year. And yeah, it was exciting times.
Is that because you were a senior and a leader in the locker room? Is that the kind of leadership that you provide?
Yes. It was terrible. Nobody cares about high school sports, at least my story. But I was playing the best football of my life going into my senior season. And I snapped my arm in the last scrimmage. Played 2 games. Yeah.
Tough.
But that Vandalia game was my first game back. I went off.
2 tackles. 2 tackles. It's in the stat sheet.
Bro, it was crazy.
Hey.
Aaron Donald.
Thanks again, Austin. Thank you for coming on. Elliot, anything left to say?
Yeah, Austin, tell Tony I said hi. He's still a bad quarterback. And tell God and Aunt Marge and everybody else over there on Cincy 360 that I say hello as well.
Thank you very much. I hope we get to hear from Reed at some point soon as well.
I was gonna say it's been a long time since I've been on there. I hope everyone's humbling Tony on the talkback segments. So
Yes, every day.
All right. See you, Austin. Thank you again.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. I'll tell you what. A Cincinnati talk show host that says glowing things about the Chicago Cubs. You love to see it. You just love to see it, guys. And I'll tell you what. Don't let the Cubs sneak a couple games against the Reds next week.
That would be Reed and I think, are going to a game. Is that correct?
We are. We're going to go Wednesday.
Okay. If they lose that, I'm going to be upset. If the Reds lose that game when I'm with Reed in Chicago at Wrigley, it's going to be a bad day.
What's the bet?
I mean, you guys got to put some coin on that game.
I'm not saying coin. I'm saying like you like dumping water on yourself. I'm a fan of practical pranks. If the Reds win the game that we attend, what's the bet?
The only thing I can think of is that you have to wear some kind of Reds shirt, Reds outfit, and go to either a game or have a whole show.
And be wet.
Just you, and then get wet afterwards.
You should have to do a pro Reds hour.
Pro Reds hour?
An hour of just glowing things about the Reds. How we're going to win the Central this year, how the Cubs have no chance.
No, but he can't do that because he'd do that weird smile he does, and he'd just make it a big joke.
He'd enjoy it more than we would.
And the tuft of hair, yeah, you're right, Paul.
Do I live rent-free in your guys' head?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do.
100%.
I love it.
It's just that smile. It's the smile and stare that Reed has when you know he's just making fun of you. It just hurts your feelings.
If the Reds win, I will wear a red shirt on air for a week. For a week. I'll wear Reds stuff on air. If the Cubs win, you got to eat a Chicago hot dog. You've got to have a shot of Malort and drink an Old Style.
What? I mean, it goes against my principles. So I don't know.
Principles?
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker.
Don't have principles, Elliot.
Fine. Okay, I'll agree.
At least
I agree.
the Malort. I need a video of Elliot taking a shot of Malort.
I more want to see you eat a Chicago hot dog because you want to talk about aliens existing. If you've ever seen one of those things, they're delicious, but they look like an alien.
I will eat a hot dog and have a shot of whatever that was.
Do you know what a Chicago hot dog is?
No.
Oh, baby. You're in for a treat.
I bet.
You're in. They're great. Fantastic. Tomatoes, peppers, poppy seed bun.
I like that. I like all of that.
It's good. It's not. This isn't a punishment.
Okay.
The Malort.
The Malort's a little bit of a punishment.
Okay. All right. I'm in. Reed versus Elliott in Chicago Wednesday night. We'll see you there. I might dress like Steve Bartman for that game. I haven't decided yet.
That'd be great. You want to get the seat? You want to get the seat?
Yeah. Well, they took it away, didn't they?
No, it's there.
It's still there?
Oh yeah.
I thought they removed that seat.
No, what they did is they've since moved the field in because that was back when the bullpens were on the field.
Yeah.
So the seat's not on the field anymore. It's not necessarily on the field. It's been
okay.
Been pushed in.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. All right, guys. What do the Reds have to do in LA this week? Like, the Reds in recent years have had some somewhat success in LA. Got the 4-game sweep. What was that, back in 2021? They're game and a half out. They play one of the best teams, the hottest team in National League, maybe in Major League Baseball, in the Los Angeles Dodgers. How important is it to get back on the winning side of things and win a series?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'd be great. We're a game and a half back. The Brewers' schedule doesn't get any easier. Obviously, ours doesn't either going to, LA, but we have a chance to really gain some ground here with them in Atlanta. I mean, the Dodgers have a good pitching staff no matter who they're putting out there, but it seems like we got lucky again with three Dodgers pitchers that aren't at the top of their rotation. So if Williamson keeps pitching the way he does, we always win on Luke Weaver night and then Ashcraft in Game 3. I think we could sweep them.
I agree. I think the Reds, like Jacob said, the Reds have been lucky over the course of this season with facing the bottom 3 of a pitching staff. I hate to say this, and I hate to keep playing like 500 ball, but win a game. If you win a game in LA, I'm not mad about it. No fan in Cincinnati is mad about it. It keeps you in the hunt still. Just win one baseball game against the Dodgers.
I'm saying this with all sincerity about it feels like every time that we talk about the Reds and what they got to do in the upcoming series, Reds talk a big game. They say, the Brewers stink. We're so much better than the Brewers. 3-10 against the Brewers over the season series. Every time I ask what the Reds need to do in a series against a team, it's just don't get swept. That's all people say. It's just big series coming up. Just please don't get swept. Please don't get out.
If the Cubs didn't get swept, they may be in first in the NL Central.
That's 100% true. The Reds, the Cubs, I'm pretty sure have a winning. They're a game under 500, and they have won way more series than they've lost. The problem is when they lose series, they get swept, and it's very damning.
The Reds' schedule for the next couple weeks is pretty easy, right? So they go to Chicago, easy victory. They have the Nationals and then the Marlins and Pirates. And then the 2 games with the Guardians, too. I think that's a very, very winnable stretch. If I lose 2 or 3 to the Dodgers in LA, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It doesn't hurt us in the long run.
The Reds have done a good job winning games that they should win.
Correct.
Like we're losing to
That's
teams
true.
that are better
That is
than us.
true.
We're losing to teams that are kind of a coin flip, but we're winning the games we should win. So post-trade deadline Cubs, who knows what that roster really looks like. I mean, there's a chance that roster is completely gutted, and we're playing a shell of the current Chicago Cubs.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I told you guys this before the show starts. I wish that the Red series against the Cubs was just one series sooner, 4 games, because game 1's on the 31st, game 2 is after the deadline already came and passed. If they could have just at least seen 2 games in that series before the deadline, it would just give up so much more smoke. You could see through what the Cubs' plan is. And the Cubs have won, 6 in a row? They're 1 game under 500. They're 4.5 games back behind the Reds and 5.5 games or 6 games back from the division lead. I don't have the standings right in front of me. And no one knows what's going to happen. It could go either way. You could see them buying. You could see them selling. Who knows? This Cubs team could look vastly different next week against the Cincinnati Reds. But you got Brandon Williamson, who's been throwing well, to face against Bryce Miller. Then you got Dreamweaver. Reds don't lose on Dreamweaver night.
That's true, Reed. The Reds have never lost on Dreamweaver night, and I know they lost that one time, but you got to forget that one.
He got hurt.
I think the mic's off.
Mic's off?
Yep, your mic's off. You got to unplug and plug it back in.
I swear to God, I don't move it. Now, check in.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. See, now that was mid-shtick.
It's off again. It's off again. Can you?
Elliot, can you figure it out?
I'm not moving. I'm not doing anything.
We need to replace this XLR. That's what it comes down to.
It's either that or it's the mic itself.
It might be the mic itself.
Hello?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
We hear you, loud and clear. I'm going to take this off.
Okay, so can I get back into character now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Reds don't lose on Dreamweaver night, and that's a fact. They scored 10 runs and the only loss, and he also exited with an injury. I don't know how it happens. I don't know why it happens. He's a 7.2 ERA and 17 starts. He has started the most games out of anybody on this staff. He has won the most games than anybody on this staff, not record-wise, but in the large scheme of things, the Reds win the most when he's pitching. I don't know what the Reds do after the deadline, but do you get rid of Luke Weaver?
Yeah, I hope so.
Do you get rid of Luke Weaver?
He's the bottom of the barrel right now.
Are you insinuating that Luke Weaver has some voodoo magic that?
Yeah, I am. Let me ask you this: you don't think that comes into play when Nick Kral's looking at this starting rotation? That the Reds do not lose, even though he gives up 10 runs an outing.
If that is crossing Nick Kral's head, I take back everything I've said about Nick Kral.
Come on, guys.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
There's nothing to it.
Nothing.
There's nothing to it.
Zero.
Paul, help me out.
I mean, there's a sample size to it. Wins. Not all they do is win. For 3 months, that's all they've done is win.
If you're going to the deadline and you're going to try to get like a James Paxton, right? You're trying to get like what Reed said, a Rich Hill, an old veteran that's just that's just trying to eat innings. Luke Weaver's your guy because even though he's again horrendous, he's the worst pitcher in Major League Baseball. They don't lose when he pitches. I'd rather have that than 4.6 ERA, 45-year-old Rich Hill come waddling out there.
Nick Kirby wants to know why wouldn't you move Weaver to the pen? Well, then you lose all his magic.
Okay, yeah.
You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Luke Weaver coming out of the bullpen in a 1-run game in the 7th. Don't like my chances there. Don't like it at all.
Luke Weaver opening for Nick Lodolo, who can't pitch a full game, and you get 4 and then 3 out of Lodolo. There's 7 innings. Boy.
And here's the strategy with Luke Weaver. You know he's given up 10 within the first 4 innings. That means you have 5 innings to work back into the game to score more runs. If you're doing it in the 7th, the Reds don't have enough time to work the magic to come back.
And if this city was smart enough, they would do what I've been doing every time Dreamweaver pitches and just not betting on the Reds until the 2nd inning.
That's right.
And making infinitely more money. So in the end, he's helping the GDP of the city. All this man does is benefit the Queen City.
I just don't, I think there is something to it. I don't know why. I know it's stupid. I know there's literally no number to back up my take. The only thing I have is that they quite literally don't lose when he pitches. They don't. They don't lose. He's horrible. He's going to give up 10 runs. Doesn't matter. The Reds' offense always knows they need just a couple more runs. The adrenaline rush of needing just one more is always in the back of their mind when he pitches.
You know what this is like?
Sling it my way, Big Pimpin'.
It's like Tebow mania.
Right.
It really is.
Right. Like, he's not good, but they're just winning.
Kind of is.
Dreamweaver, Tim Tebow, reincarnate?
Maybe.
Could
Is
be.
it time to start the dialogue that Luke Weaver's the leader of this team, and we don't need Jonathan India?
Ooh. I don't hate that one. I don't hate that take.
So
I don't love it.
Jacob brought up an excellent point. I was watching Chatterbox Reds yesterday with Nick and Trace, and they were talking
when we lose. I've noticed a trend here. You're not in there on wins.
Listen.
There was a 12-game stretch where I didn't see a whole lot of Reed Mouse earlier this year.
Listen. Yeah, I ain't got nothing to say. There's. I normally put in a smiley face or something like that when the Reds lose, just to get the chat moving. But Nick brought up the point that Nick Lodolo probably is going to come back to September, late August, right? And even when he comes back, are you really going to want to push him? This is an arm that is on the long-term plan of the Reds. So if you don't want to push him, and he comes back in September, a lot of talk has been brought up about the Reds need to get a left-handed arm for the bullpen. Could Nick Lodolo be that arm that you're talking about? Is that completely we're not talking about him opening. We're not talking about him throwing 3 innings at the beginning of the game. I'm talking about bringing him in the 6th inning against the left-handed side of the plate for, you face a couple lefties, got to face 3 batters at least. Could he be the left-handed arm out of the pen?
You're not moving Andrew Abbott to the bullpen, so he is without a doubt the best left-handed arm in your organization that's available for that role, in my opinion. I mean, he can come in. You can say what you want about Nick Lodolo to start this year, but when he is healthy, you trust him on the mound. You do. I mean,
his stuff is absurd.
He's proven it. So if you can use him for an inning, 2 innings, maybe work him up to 3 if pitch counts are low, he can be really good and really useful to this team as a reliever.
I'm just reading through the chat right now.
I was reading it too.
I'm loving this. You're welcome for demonstrating which hand is my left hand. Elliot, would you like Nick Lodolo coming out of the pen?
Yeah, I would. I don't want him starting. I would rather have a healthy Brandon Williamson in a playoff game start. Even if they go a bullpen game, you know what I mean? If it's just minimal work, I'd rather see Brandon Williamson come out there, a healthy Brandon Williamson, than a coming off injury Nick Lodolo. I think Nick Lodolo in September, October, assuming the Reds were to make a postseason run, I think a two inning outing, a 1 inning outing, where he's just throwing his dirtiest stuff, I think that's beneficial to this team as of right now. Because I do think with Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Graham Ashcraft, those are 3 gems right there, right?
The way Williamson's been pitching, you have to throw him into that mix.
I agree.
You have a really solid rotation.
Ben Lively has been a serviceable player. Ben Lively, I imagine, would move. Well, I'm trying to make a take here, and I'm just seeing Reed laugh in the corner.
I'm laughing because I can't defend this shirt, guys. It is so wrinkly. I pulled it out. I didn't realize how wrinkly it was. It was hanging. So it shouldn't be this wrinkly, but I grabbed it, put it on, got to the office today, looked down, and I was like, yeah, that ain't good.
Reed, when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, sling it my way.
And you know that you have to come in here and host the show and sit up there and just get berated for 2 hours.
Yeah.
What goes through your head when your feet hit the floor in the morning?
Love it. Because you know why? Because I'm a self-centered man. I love, my ego needs everything to be about me. So even if you are berating me, at least I'm the center of attention. At least I'm in the middle. So you guys are giving me what I want. Keep on berating me. So that's why. I don't listen. I have been told that I'm the worst human being for most of my life. From my dad, from my wife. I'm just the boy who just keeps getting berated, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm okay with this.
That's a berated boy.
Do we need to have a positive So, some
Do I need
positivity for
therapy?
Reed?
Probably.
Let's all give Reed one compliment.
Let's all say
Yes.
one nice thing about Reed Mouse. Jacob.
Let's go around the room. Jacob, we'll start with you.
I mean, guys. We'll start with Elliot.
Okay, Reed's smile is nice when
Thanks.
he's not being a jackass.
Thou giveth and thou taketh away. We don't have to do this, guys. So the Reds. I don't. We don't need to go around the room. That's what I don't want.
I was just gonna compliment your shorts.
They look
Very
really
short.
Nice today.
Yeah,
They look really nice.
If the chat saw how short my shorts are today,
How about you stand up, Reed? How about you stand up? Because
Reed
that's really
begged
what
for the
everybody
desk
wants
seat
to know.
today.
Stand up, Reed.
Oh,
I mean,
Reed.
they're not even getting to the desk.
Oh, Reed.
Oh no.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, Reed.
Oh no.
Why?
Those are painted on, brother.
I mean, they shouldn't be wrapped around your thigh that tight.
I mean, what is
Are
that?
you in circulation?
Are you okay, Reed?
I've got big legs, guys. I got big legs. I'm not. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna show them off. I'm gonna show them off. Proud of them boys. Big quad.
Mouse is calling
You don't
911.
see Spencer Strider wearing Prince Fielder pants. He ain't wearing pajamas out there. I'm gonna show them bad boys off. Half of the comments that are ever put in the chat about me are about my physical appearance, about what I'm wearing that day, and it's getting to me a little bit. It's getting to me just a little bit. Not enough to make sure that the shirt I'm wearing is ironed and not have a billion wrinkles in it, but it's getting to me just a little bit. And I appreciate you guys.
You might not want to check the last 30 seconds of the chat.
Read. Those are your wife's shorts. I'm calling the FCC 911.
It ain't like Reed.
Oh my gosh. Grape smugglers. Fair enough. Fair enough. Mr. Hide Your Girl. Thank you, that one guy, 15. Guys, back to baseball. Before I get into a piece that the Reds have been linked to last night, according to Fangraphs, playoff odds, the Reds have about a 30% chance of making the postseason. 29.2%. They have a 15% chance to win the division. And they have about a 13% chance to clinch a wild card spot. Now, a reminder, the Reds have a 15% chance to win the division. The Cubs got an 11% chance to win the division. I'm just saying, don't count them out. Every time I do this on the show, they rattle off like 6 straight losses. So who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? You don't care. You don't care at all.
Don't care at all. It's ain't about some gosh darn game. It's about my life. Eduardo Rodriguez, the lefty from the Detroit Tigers, has been linked that the Reds are going to be looking at him this year. He has pitched in 15 games. He's got a 2.95 ERA, a 2.3 baseball reference WAR, B-WAR, 6-5 record. He strikes out just over how many innings he pitches? 91 strikeouts, 88 and a third innings pitched. So gets plenty of strikeouts. He makes this team the team to beat in the Central.
I think we talked about him a while ago when we were really starting the trade talks, and he would be the best case scenario. I think at the trade deadline, I understand that the years of control are kind of warped because he does have an opt-out, so you don't really control him after this year.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. Is there a chance you could talk him into opting in? I mean, this team's special. You can get him for 2 years. I think so.
Let me put it this way. Eduardo Rodriguez, unless he continues doing what he does and has a sub-3 ERA this year, and he's due $18 million next year. Is his market that much greater now? I mean, contracts are inflating. Is he a $25 million a year contract guy? Maybe. Maybe someone can convince him he could convince a team to take him for that, but $18 million seems about fair for what Eduardo Rodriguez is. So if you're a competing team, young team that is going to compete for a while, as the Cincinnati Reds are, there's a compliment. I don't think it's that hard to push him in. Granted, he's going to be throwing in Great American Small Park, but who knows? Does Eduardo Rodriguez make this team the team to beat in the division, Elliot?
No, I don't think so. I think right
that's
now
the Cubs, right?
Oh my God, the shtick doesn't stop. Listen, Reed, I'm trying to make a valid point here, guy. Come on now. Eduardo Rodriguez would certainly help this team. I don't think he's the answer. One guy does not make this team the best team in the division. One arm does not do that. If I'm going to be honest, I expect a reliever. I expect a left-handed reliever to come to Cincinnati. I don't know who that would be, but I think we're going to get one left-handed reliever and no starting pitching. I think the starting pitching right now is serviceable enough to last through the end of the season into the postseason. I really do, because you don't need 5 guys when you're in the playoffs, right? You need 3, 4 guys. So I think our top 4, when Hunter Green is healthy, if Hunter Green is healthy, and maybe potentially Nick Lodolo, I think we are just as good without Eduardo Rodriguez at this point than with him. So I think the answer at the deadline, the thing that would help this team, a left-handed reliever, maybe another right-handed reliever, just something to give some of these guys more breaks. Because we talked about it yesterday a little bit. You know, Diaz is getting tired. Diaz needs just a week of no pitching at this point. He looks fatigued out there. He's hitting guys. He's walking guys. He's giving up hits. He gave up 3 straight hits against the first game in the first game in Milwaukee. I think another reliever would be the key. I don't think starting pitching right now is the key. I've changed my mind on that.
And we keep alluding to the fact that the Cincinnati Reds, regardless of if they make a move for a pitcher at this trade deadline, they're getting 3 arms back before the end of the season. Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, presumably, and presumably TJ Antone. All these 3 arms can make a significant impact, perhaps more so than any arm that they'd get at the deadline. I truly have no idea in which direction the Reds are going to go. It seems like they're shopping Jonathan India around. If you had me, well, we know that that's happening. If you had me place a bet, I don't think the Reds make a single move. I truly don't. But I've been wrong oftentimes.
And I think it would be okay. I think it would be okay if they didn't. I don't think, and Jacob and I have kind of been riding this riding this point for the past 2 weeks or so. I don't think it's a good move to go all in for this season. But like Reed just said, I mean, you have 3 guys that could make this team a legitimate contender in the postseason. Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, and then TJ Antone would seriously help this team. Vladimir Gutierrez, is he supposed to return as well?
Yes, they said they expect him back in September, but he will be a reliever, which is a great boost because what he was as a starter, he did eat innings.
Correct.
So if he can come in and be a 3-inning reliever, I mean, that's exactly what we need.
So the Reds can stay true here. The offense is good enough. Don't need anybody in the lineup. So if you're going to do anything, it would be a left-handed reliever. That's my only play. That's my only guess if they were to make a move, which brings me to my next point. I don't think they're going to trade Jonathan India. They might do it in the offseason, but I don't think there's a move that would – Jonathan India has value. Despite what this Reds fan base thinks of him, he has value in Major League Baseball. Teams want Jonathan India. Fan bases want Jonathan India. But I don't think what you're going to get at the deadline is equivalent to the value of Jonathan India. I'm not going to trade Jonathan India for a middle-aged middle reliever that just has a left hand, which makes him valuable.
And that's where I completely disagree. Like you don't need to make a move. You don't need to make a move. Sit on the roster the whole time. I think you absolutely cannot leave the trade deadline with Jonathan India on your team this year. You can't do it. It's imperative you move him. Once you make him available and let the teams know that he's not in your offseason plans, number one, it opens the door to not play him every day, which I don't expect. If he's on this Reds team after the trade deadline, he will not play every day like he did in the first half. It just won't happen. And Noelvin Marte will come up probably this year, I think. And if he doesn't come up this year, it will be strictly because Jonathan India is on this team. Jonathan India sitting on the bench and not playing second base or even DHing drives his value down every single day. He needs to be a second baseman. We need to convince one of the 29 teams that he is a second baseman. That's the only way you can get anything back for him. So if it's not for someone that helps the Major League team this year, trade him for prospects. I don't really care. He needs to be traded at the deadline. Here's an honest question, because if you look at some of these other teams, what they're throwing around, fan bases, I'm talking fan bases. If you get on X.com and you get in these other fan bases feeds, they're throwing around ludicrous trades for Jonathan India. Jacob brought up one last night. Sandy Alcantara. I saw Marlon's Twitter page tweet Sandy Alcantara for Jonathan
Baseball
India.
trade values has completely warped every regular citizen's ability to comprehend trades.
Well, I don't think it necessarily has to do with baseball trade values, because they do overinflate Jonathan India on that website. But I feel like he's been the face of the Cincinnati Reds for the past 2 years. He was the Rookie of the Year. When most other teams think of the Cincinnati Reds and they say name one player, most fan bases, the first name that will come up is Jonathan India or Ellie De La Cruz. Those are 1-1. Joey Votto's right there. But Jonathan India is one of the first names that come up. The question I'm asking is it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to think that the franchises are as fooled as the fan bases are, right? Like the franchises know what Jonathan India is, and that is a not very good second baseman with an above average bat at the second base position, but an average bat to below average bat in the corner outfield position. So once again, we're running our tires in the mud on what is Jonathan India's trade value. And I made the point earlier that if you made me put money on it right now, I think that the Reds won't make a move. I should backpedal that a little bit. I think that there will be, in some essence, a move made, but I don't think it moves the needle at all. I mean, we're talking an aged reliever for a nothing, like a low A, not a high ceiling, just something, right? That's the only move that I see. I don't think there's going to be a big splash by the Cincinnati Reds at all. Maybe I'm wrong. But the question that Evan Maher, no one's answering Evan Maher on this because he's spamming the chat. He's spamming the Discord. He's spamming the X.com. Why are people pushing for Jonathan India to be traded in the offseason? How does that make more sense than now?
I don't think rushing to make a move just for the sake of rushing him so that another player behind him can get here, I don't think that's going to get the best deal possible for Jonathan India. I don't think it will. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jacob's right. Maybe just Noelvi getting here is worth him being off the team.
Even without Noelvi, though, this team, the current roster is better without Jonathan India in the lineup with Steer at third and CES or Votto at first.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think Jonathan India certainly doesn't help himself defensively. Yesterday I saw one of the worst throws to first base, perhaps in the history of the sport. Jonathan India grounded a ball 15 feet left of first base. So I don't know. I think rushing to move a guy for the sake of rushing him, I don't think you're going to get the best value. I don't. So I would wait to the offseason, let Nick Krall stew on it a little bit, let him work his magic, get crawled, right?
But there's leverage right now.
Right. You lose all your leverage if
you lose all your leverage if you wait to the offseason. So this is where the Reds would get the most value.
But I think he's in the biggest slump of his career right now.
If you can recognize...
Do you think it's going to get better, him not playing every day?
Well, I think the hope of next season would help teams rationalize trading for Jonathan India, who is, again, playing horrible baseball.
There's a reason that all of these trades happen at the end of July and not in the offseason. It's because they have the most value now.
And that's fair. I just think that rushing to get rid of him for a couple pitching prospects right now doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or rushing him to get a middle-aged reliever.
If you can recognize that Jonathan India is better than his current numbers and he's slumping and, you know, all the stats, he's an unlucky player, don't you think one of the other 29 teams can recognize that too?
It's fair.
Like, if it is just a slump and he is this beneficial player that has a ton of value, can't other teams see that? I mean, we have analytics departments. Every team has an analytics department. Like, the slump does not matter. The less he plays second base, the more his value decreases, and that's a fact. And he can't play second base every day if this team wants to win.
It's fair. I would wait till the offseason. That's everybody else's call, though. Everybody has an opinion. I don't think India is traded at the deadline. Do you?
No.
That's my point.
I think that they should be, but I don't think that he is. And that's what I said. I don't think any big splashes are going to happen here in the next few days.
India would be a big splash regardless of the return.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. India getting traded would be a big splash. Getting a starting pitcher that can bolster the rotation would be a big splash. Getting a middle-aged reliever, I would not say is a big splash.
Do you think it affects the team at all? This is an honest question.
So, yeah, people keep bringing up the Josh Hader thing and that the Brewers seem to have seemingly imploded, right? I'm recalling history, right? They imploded after they traded their star closer, one of the best closers in the league, mid-season last year. I don't know. And we keep going back. This is where we keep circling the tires. Not only his trade value, but what is his value to this team? And everyone keeps pointing. He's the leader of this team. He's the leader of this team. But you can't quantify that. And it's truly a wait-and-see thing. That you've got to be okay with the outcome, do or die, Jonathan India, if you're going to trade him. I don't know. I'm not in the clubhouse every day. Those guys are. They know what Jonathan India brings to the team. And if you ask the players, they're going to say, yeah, we don't want Jonathan India gone. He's my teammate. I don't want to see him traded, moved to another city. No one wants that. But if you ask them subconsciously, is the locker room going to change? Is the vibe in the locker room going to change and the dugout going to change if Jonathan India leaves? Who knows?
I do think it's funny, though, how last year Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson were the future. They were the future of this franchise, the future of the team, future of the fan base. They're the 2 worst players on the team objectively. So I just think it's how far we've come. How far we've come. I'm excited for Ellie. I'm excited for Matt McClain, Andrew Abbott, all these guys, Strand, right? But I do think it just goes to show, in baseball, it just goes away so quickly. Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India, we're going to be my favorite players. I would say they're not going to be a part of the future for very long.
I still think Tyler Stevenson is.
Yeah, he's still a catcher.
Yep.
Still a catcher.
And he's a league average hitting catcher. He's the exact, 88's league average WRC plus for catchers, and he's right 87.
And he can do better.
And he's getting better behind the plate. In a whole offseason at catcher, he'll continue to improve. I still have faith in Tyler Stevenson.
It's funny. People keep bringing up this Josh Hader thing, and we talk about, and they use it to support that they shouldn't trade Jonathan India because you don't know how the locker room's going to react to that move. Are we reading too much into what happened to the Brewers last year? That a closer, a guy that sits away from the rest of the team every game, for the entirety of the game, is him leaving is the reason that, oh man, morale's just so low?
Sometimes I wonder if it's not so much the player themselves getting traded as it is the fact that player got traded. Like, seeing that player gone from your team, maybe you don't interact with them as much, maybe you don't have as much to do because that player's in the bullpen, or, that player sits at this side of the bench and hangs out with this group of 3 people. But just knowing in the back of your head that, oh, we don't have our all-star reliever, or, oh, we don't have, it's not the case necessarily in Jonathan India because he's not an all-star. He's not having the type of season, I guess, that would be indicative of keeping him around for the long term. But sometimes I do wonder if you've heard my rant.
They're professionals.
I don't believe nearly as much in the disrupting the locker room from a chemistry standpoint. I more so think that sometimes players can get frustrated with the front office's decision to trade a player because the front office thinks that move is the right move, but they're not in the clubhouse every day. They don't know the dynamic. Nick Kroll might know what on paper needs to happen, but Nick Kroll isn't in that clubhouse every single day. He's around the team. I'm not denying that. But he's not in the clubhouse every day. He's not in the dugout. He doesn't know the dynamics. He doesn't know how all that's going on day in and day out. He's smart enough to know to get reports from David Bell. But sometimes I wonder if that's where the team gets disrupted, is just in the fact that the trade happened and the team is upset because that talent is off the team, more so than the actual player or the friend.
That they almost feel like they're betrayed, right?
By the
front office.
Yeah, I would say so. That the front office didn't have as much confidence in that position or in that player or whatever it might be because they just went and decided to get rid of him, such as getting rid of Alexis Diaz, which I think would be a horrific decision now. I know there are people that are not in that camp, but I think that would be a terrible decision to trade him, because if you're a player and you think to yourself, all right, we don't have a great bullpen, but we at least got something going on. He's tired right now. Maybe the bats give him a rest over the next few days. But let's stick with the good things that we have. Why are we getting rid of the good things that we have, even if you might not be friends with them necessarily? That doesn't mean you don't like them. It doesn't mean you actively dislike them. Just more so means, hey, let's have some confidence in the skill that we have at our best positions.
I think trading Alexis Diaz would rock the locker room much more than trading Jonathan India.
I agree with that. I think
that is objectively throwing in the towel on trying to win this year. Yeah. I'm not saying we need to go all in. I've never said that, but there's a degree where you have to start thinking about, we are playing for a playoff spot. Do these guys have more value to the Cincinnati Reds than they do in their potential return? I said with Jonathan India, I don't believe so. Diaz is locked up for years to come, so he will be here contributing when this Reds team is really in the thick of trying to win. The other guys I'm talking about are like Nick Senzel and Kevin Newman. I mean, we're getting single A, lottery ticket prospects for those guys. Are their matchup bats, Nick Senzel's versatility, Kevin Newman's bat against a left-handed pitcher, is that more valuable to the Reds than a single A pitcher 5 years away that might be really good? Right. Probably.
And that's where maybe somebody in here can help me out.
We'd love to.
I get that thank you, Reed. I get that you're trying to build for the future. I 100% understand it. It's what good organizations do. It's what the Tampa Bay Rays have been doing. It's what the St. Louis Cardinals have been doing. It's what the Atlanta Braves have been doing. It's the best. The Los Angeles Dodgers have been doing. The best franchises in Major League Baseball have been doing this. But there also is a time where you have to, and I guess it's different with a small market team, but when there's the opportunity to win now, you have to take it. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer that what the Orioles did last year was wrong. Am I getting proven wrong by them? Absolutely. But I still believe it, right? I still think if you have the opportunity, to win, and the Reds have a significant chance, 30% chance to make the postseason. I think it's honestly higher than that. You have to take it. I think trading Alexis Diaz, trading guys that have value to this current team for the future, I think that can significantly hurt not only the fan base. I think it can hurt the morale in the clubhouse. I know I know I could be proven wrong on this, but I do think there's a point where you have to weigh the choices of let's go all in for the future or let's go kind of in for now and also play the future game. Because if you're trading Alexis Diaz, you are tanking this season and you are just hoping that someone in the future can help you out.
I think 90% of Reds fans are against trading Alexis Diaz.
Right. I would
90 to 95. Yeah, you'd get a hell of a haul for one of the best closers in baseball with a lot of years of control left. But, like you guys said, thrown in the towel. Back to the Jonathan India talk and saying, and I think Nick Kirby brought this up about talking about how the morale changes and there's 10 guys that want Jonathan India's job. If Jonathan India leaves this team, and we're talking about, wow, how's the locker room going to react to Jonathan India? Who's going to be upset that Jonathan India is gone?
Right.
Who?
Jonathan India.
See, that's an honest question. Who? Because the numbers are few.
Well, Ellie moves to a position he's more comfortable in. McClain moves to a position that he played better in the minor leagues. Steer doesn't have to play first, which he's obviously uncomfortable with. You take him out of the left field rotation more often, which he looks lost in left field more often than not. Yeah, I mean that's the type of all-in move for this year that I like is trading Jonathan India, even for prospects, because that's making the team better tomorrow. The other thing with India is he keeps saying he wants to be here, he wants to be here, he wants to be here. He has never even insinuated he'll play somewhere other than second base. You don't really want to be here that bad then. I mean, that's where I'm at with that.
The team gets better. That's the point. Out of everything that Jacob just said, and he's made this point before, but let's hammer it home. If Jonathan India leaves the Reds tomorrow, is the roster better? Is the everyday lineup better without Jonathan India in it? If the answer is yes, then the vision's clear. Smell you later, Jonathan India.
I mean, what a disrespectful way to end this conversation.
Let's take a ham and eggers on this one.
Smell you later? What are we doing? I thought you were getting honest there. I thought we were going to have a deep conversation.
Smell you later.
Jacob's been making good points, and Reed whispers into the mic, smell you later. What are we doing?
That was great.
So disrespectful.
Because Jonathan India is stinkier than Stinky Barrera. So we will smell him later.
That's such a lie. Trace and you guys know that Jose Barrero is not as good as Jonathan India. You guys know this, and I'm not going to hear anything about it. I mean, Jose Barrero couldn't hit a baseball. Literally couldn't hit a baseball. Drew 0 walks. Struck out every single at-bat. And I don't think his fielding was that good, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Better than Jonathan India's.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm respectfully to my guy John, I'm a better fielder at second base right now in my current state than Jonathan India is. So, yeah, whatever. Reed, great way to end that.
You're welcome. Mr. President, take it away. Ham and Eggers, Mr. President.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
Well, we've talked about Joe Burrow and the Bengals a little bit here. So the Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and
productivity.
That's right. You can visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. There's also a new premium alkaline water. Back to drinking it again. This is great. We love it. Got another delivery of it. It's Pawnee, and it is the best tasting water in the world. You can visit their website at pawneewater.com. That is PAHHNI water.com. PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy it. Premium alkaline water, unlike the artificial processing that many of those other brands use, and they call it, as we do, the best tasting water in the world. pawneewater.com. Drink Pawnee Water, get your coffee from UDF, bet with Betfred, and get your technology solutions from Encore. Tom was originally supposed to be back tomorrow. He will not be back tomorrow, which means you got this cast of characters until...
Next Tuesday?
Nope.
Not until when? When, Casey?
Until the 8th.
Wednesday the 9th.
Oh.
Wednesday the 9th, Tom Brenneman returns.
August 9th.
So you got us, a rotating cast of characters, which actually Jacob will be gone tomorrow. Jacob, your last day is tomorrow.
Tomorrow is my last day.
Tomorrow is your last day. You're heading back to Tuscaloosa on Monday. Have you decided
Sunday.
about
Sunday
Oh,
morning.
you skip the Oppenheimer.
No Oppenheimer.
So does that mean Jacob hosts tomorrow?
Jacob hosts?
Yes,
We've all
Jacob.
hosted except for Casey.
Yes, Jacob.
All right. If the people want it.
People host. You've also got to do the summer chat power rankings.
Of course.
The definitive summer list.
We've been working on those for weeks.
I think we're going to have a Mac on the mic next Friday. It's just going to be Casey and I next Thursday and Friday. Reed's going to be gone. Elliot's going to be gone. Jacob's not going to be with us anymore. Trace and Sean are going to be gone.
I'm going to be alive. Well, I'm not going to be with you anymore.
No, he's going to be gone.
Dead to us.
Yeah, I guess you're
dead
right.
to us.
No, you're gone forever.
Yeah, you're gone forever.
Smell you.
So it's just gonna be Casey and I next Thursday and Friday. Maybe we'll get a little Mac on the mic on Friday.
Of course.
I would love to see Mac on the mic.
It's been a long time coming.
It has been.
It's been in the works
for
a long time.
The build up, the anticipation.
I just got a really important job here, and I got to make sure I elevate the talent around me, make sure that everything works here. So
you do that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Casey, do you have that? This was a fun. So, has there ever been an athlete in the city of Cincinnati that has 180'd his public persona as much as Joey Votto? No one knew what Joey Votto's personality was like 7-8 years ago, except for obviously his teammates and stuff like that. And to be honest, if you asked Cincinnati fans, how would you describe Joey Votto's personality? If you asked Cincinnati fans back in 2015, 2016, they'd say probably a little standoffish. You don't hear a lot of him. Pretty quiet. And in the twilight of his career, the guy's turned into a big old goofball. And it's fantastic. Please watch this interview between Mad Dog and Joey Votto. It's fantastic if you haven't seen it.
A couple of months ago, you said that Zach Greinke and I are a hall of very good ball players. I think Zach and I would agree. You may be right. But I get the gist of what's going on here. I know what you're doing. You're looking down on us. A couple small market Midwest ball players. Just because we're not big city, just like you. Mr. New York City, Sirius XM radio star. Mr. National Television, ESPN star, with your Fifth Avenue ties and your crisp pocket squares, your tailored suits and your polished shoes, and your hair, your perfectly coiffed Broadway hair. Must be nice to sit atop that Madison Avenue ivory tower, looking down on us with those luscious locks. Not everyone can be the next Roger Peckinpah, Mad Dog. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're a disgrace. A couple of months ago, you said that.
That is absolutely fantastic television from Joey Votto. He does bits better than me and Elliot.
Yeah, he does. The one where he was on Intentional Talk, where he was as the roadie or as the Canadian. What's the Canadian thing? The Mountie?
Yeah, the Mountie.
That was one of my favorite bits. I think Reed's right. I don't think there's an athlete that has changed his public persona. And for so long, people have hated him and said, he's not a Hall of Famer because of that, right?
Right.
He doesn't get in front of the mic. That nobody really knows who he is. but I think now he's just a silly goose. And I love a silly goose more than anybody.
His Gucci suit chest pictures over the offseason were just the absolute best. I mean, his social media has been the best follow in the last, 18 months since he's taken this turn. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's great. I already loved Joey as the baseball player, so now I'm cementing himself as a Cincinnati off-the-field icon is even better.
Yeah, his TikToks. He's just a goofball. My friends send that GIF of him chewing the bubble gum. I mean, that's a famous Cincinnati sports GIF. That wasn't the only thing that happened on social media with Cincinnati athletes yesterday. So this would actually drop during the show, I believe, yesterday. What's the timestamp on that, Casey?
10:19.
10:19 yesterday. T. Higgins tweets out Jamar Chase. Oh. Speculation time. What does this mean?
I'm still holding out the hope I've had all offseason. The Burrow and T extension is going to be one post. We're getting one announcement, both of them, by the end of the weekend.
Just them, going back to the memes, the embrace, the immaculate. That meme has a name. I think it's the epic handshake. The epic handshake. We just got Joe and Jamar, epic embrace, because they both get extended at the same time.
I hope so. I really do think Burrow has not talked about his contract much other than every single time he's asked about it saying that we will keep everyone. That's the only information he's giving us. So, yeah, it's great. My confidence skyrocketed after the Justin Herbert deal. I mean, I thought his deal was going to be closer to 55, maybe even higher. And that since it was 52, 53, I'm over the moon excited about this group, and I'm pretty sure they're all going to be back.
It just can't be a percentage.
Cannot be a percentage.
Cannot be a percentage of the payroll.
I was looking into that last night. I don't think that's possible.
You don't think that's legal?
I don't think that's legal.
It's not legal.
Yeah, you can't do that in the NFL. So,
great.
We're talking about
fantastic.
It would be a first, and the only reason why it's not legal is because the money changes every year.
Well, I saw that the Patriots were talking about it with Brady when he was there, and it was illegal then. That was the only article I could find that strictly said one way or the other. I would imagine there hasn't been a quarterback since that has even had that conversation.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, well, that's fantastic, because I was deathly worried about that very same thing. Yeah, I mean, that's great.
Are we all in agreement that longer the better, the more years?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. I've seen somewhat of a split on Twitter that you'd rather have a 5-year deal, 7-year deal than a 10-year deal, and I don't understand that sentiment at all. So
if I ever see Joe Burrow put on a different helmet, even if he's terrible at the end of his career, he's playing, he does the Green Bay Packers thing and goes plays for the New York Jets. I can't do that. I can't see that. Can't imagine it.
I'll cry very real tears when it happens, but I do not think he retires his entire. I think he retires a Bengal. I don't think his whole career's here. I think he goes and takes a year or two in New Orleans.
Oh, don't say that.
Nola?
At 45. Yeah. At 40, 45.
No.
Yeah.
45.
3 Super Bowls in. 3 Super Bowls in. He goes 45 to 47 in New Orleans.
You lowballing us over there?
Joe Burrow wins 3 Super Bowls in 5 years.
If Joe Burrow wins 1 Super Bowl, he can do whatever he wants.
If Joe Burrow doesn't win a Super Bowl in 2 years, what are we going to say about him? What are we going to say about him?
In the next 5 years, have the Bengals won more than 1 Super Bowl? Have the Bengals?
They win 1.
Do the Bengals win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years?
If we don't win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, we have missed the window.
Yeah, we have missed the window.
Does it happen?
Well, you can get renewal by Anderson to replace that window.
That's true. For $1 billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion.
For 1 Joe Burrow contract.
What costs more, Joe Burrow's contract or the quote? I think it's in my truck. The quote that I got from renewal by Anderson for $165,000 for windows. Ludicrous. From Jeff. Renewal by Anderson. Never get my business.
You might say this is ludicrous, but Tayo Cruz, tell him how you feel.
Nice.
You like that?
That was nice, Elliot.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that?
Sorry.
That just triggered me from Kirk Cousins.
Speaking of mid-2000s rappers, anyone can go to see Fitty this Saturday? Riverbend?
No.
Who?
Fitty?
Oh, boy.
Oh.
He needs money bad. If he's back on tour,
it's his farewell tour. It's his farewell tour.
Is it actually?
I think so.
Oh,
it
man.
is. Well, all these artists do. I mean, how many farewell tours have the Eagles done? They all do this.
Will you read one page of a Harry Potter book? It's the best 50 Cent video of all time.
Yes.
You know which band
Floyd Mayweather.
quietly rode off into the sunset?
Sling it.
Rascal Flatts. They retired like 3 years ago, never making music again.
Well, the lead singer's still touring.
Is he?
Yeah, solo.
Oh, okay.
They need money.
I've heard they were not a very good concert.
Really?
Yeah. I think Lizzie saw them multiple times and said she never had a great, like that they were just okay. She expected more. I don't know. I don't know what you're really expecting out of Rascal Flatts, though.
I like Rascal
Life is a
Flatts.
Highway. That's what I'm
song.
expecting.
I like Rascal Flatts.
If they stood on stage and sung Life is a Highway for 60 minutes, it'd be a great concert. I mean, that song is
Here's a song you never heard before.
Last year at the Mason City Festival for the 4th of July, they brought in Smash Mouth.
Yes.
So me and a couple of friends went, and we just wanted to see a good fireworks show. They were doing a concert, whatever. They flew Smash Mouth in from California. They played a 80-minute set probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Believer and All-Star were the last two songs they played. I looked at my friend. I said, they could have just stood up there and played those two songs for the last hour and a half. The experience wouldn't have changed because those were the only two songs that people sang. The whole crowd got up for about 7 minutes. And the whole concert, they just kept saying, bear with us, like, it's coming, it's coming. And then right before they played the fireworks, they played those two songs. That was it. They could have just played them for an hour, and everybody would have been happy.
I love Bob Dylan. He's one of my favorite music artists of all time. I think he's maybe the best writer that America has seen in the past 100 years. I saw him up at the Phrase up in Dayton in 2016. And if you don't know about Bob Dylan, he made his best music back in 1960s and hasn't stopped making music since. He releases an album like every single year. So he probably has thousands of songs. And I sat there through that whole 2-hour show and didn't know a single song.
Interjection, Reed. Trey Hendrickson 1-year extension.
Nice. Good.
Big time.
Big time.
That is
Big
huge.
time.
Big, huge news.
Any other?
That's big.
Once upon a time, you dressed so fine, threw the bums a dime in your prime. Didn't you? Well, so the punchline of this joke, the punchline of this joke is he does hours and hours. Like he did like a 3-hour show, and like an hour and a half in, I hadn't heard a single song that I knew from Bob Dylan, and he comes on the mic and goes, "All right, I played a lot of my own new stuff. How about a song you guys have heard before?" And he plays the song he just played. He went back-to-back songs.
What?
Yeah, he said, "How about a song you guys have heard before?" And he played the exact same song back-to-back. I mean, just the biggest troll job that has ever been troll jobbed at a concert. Bob Dylan, fantastic. Absolutely great. They just don't make 12-minute songs anymore like they used to. Bob. Any other Bob Dylan fans? No?
I'm not a Bob Dylan guy. I respect his work. I like his son's music. He played for the Wallflowers.
Yeah.
I like that.
One headlight.
Two headlights or one headlight?
It was one headlight.
One headlight.
It was one headlight because it was his one song. They're a one-hit wonder, right?
Yeah. It was a good song.
Good song.
It's a good song.
You guys should listen to Bob Dylan. Sure. All right, we got a few minutes. Do we have time to sneak in a grid?
Yeah, we got time.
We got time before Tracy gets in here?
I mean, Tracy could just join us in the grid.
Yeah, that's true, too.
We've never had him on the grid before.
I don't like how the grid doesn't update till 9 a.m. now. I don't know if you've noticed
Jones
that.
on here.
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
I don't know.
Like, you wake up, and you first thing you got to do is check the grid.
I was a grid with coffee guy. Now
Right.
I can't even do it.
Yeah, you got to wait till 9 a.m.? What's that about?
They did add the football and basketball ones.
They did add the football and basketball ones.
You need
'Cause all
colleges for the football one to be good. Just being the NFL teams is,
Yeah, is what it is.
All right.
Do we want to wait?
No,
Or
let's go.
No, let's go. I'll start it off with I feel like obviously the big 40 home run seasons for the Giants are going to be Barry Bonds, Willie McCovey, Willie Mays. Put in Matt Williams. Friend of the show.
2003?
Yes.
3%.
3%er. I'm not even. I think there's only been like 2 San Diego Padres that have ever hit 40 home runs. I'm not even kidding about that. I truly think that there's only been a couple of San Diego Padres that have ever hit 40 home runs, one of them being Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah.
So go ahead and put in Tatis Jr.
There it is. 90% probably.
Yeah, it's
45.
Huh.
Gold Glove, 40 homer season.
Any other? Any former? Anyone? I took 2 out there.
I'm trying to think. We're struggling.
Jacob? Paul?
No. I'm bad at these.
Was Vladimir Guerrero a Gold Glover for the Angels?
I don't know, but I've got an Angel Padre if you want an Angel Padre. Cameron
Drury?
Cameron Maben.
One percent.
1%er.
Nice.
Like Tracy Jones.
St. Louis and San Francisco. Did Alex Cobb play for the Cardinals?
How about San Fran and LA Angels? Alex Cobb.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani. In
I got there
couple
eventually.
7. Not bad.
There's a big name that has played for both. We got any chats?
Jurickson Profar? Did Profar play for Cardinals?
Did Mike Leake pitch for the Giants and the Cardinals?
I don't think so.
I think he did.
Let me see.
I mean, Matt Carpenter played for Padres and Cardinals.
Yeah, that's a good one. Do Carpenter. You're right. Reed's right. St. Louis Giants.
Well, I'm not
What was
right.
his first name?
Jack Butler
Matt.
keeps spamming it in there. So
Matt Carpenter for Padres Cardinals.
Yep. Mike Leake.
Mike Leake for Cardinals Giants.
Matt Carpenter, yeah, and then Mike Leake.
Right there. 1%. This is looking good,
And
guys.
he's got a Reds hat on.
Mike Trout for Angels Gold Glove. Certainly, right?
Can we do better? But yeah, go ahead.
We
Just
can
throw
do
it.
better.
Throw it
Maybe
in
we
there.
can.
Are you sure? We can.
I have no other names.
Did Sean Figgins win a Gold Glove?
I don't know who Sean Figgins is.
Never.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
man.
sounds like a cartoon.
Sean?
It's not a real person.
I mean, he played for the Angels for like 12 years. Stole 60 bases a year. No, he did not. Don't put in. Go ahead and put Mike Trout. He's won a Gold Glove. He has not won a Gold Glove.
Yikes, not immaculate.
That's tough.
Well, that's tough,
Elliot.
guys.
Elliot.
All right, well, X this out.
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't
over
matter.
now.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's
matter.
over.
I was going to say Omar or not Omar, Ozzy for St. Louis. How many people have done all? Yeah, get it out of here.
That's the best 10 minutes of podcasting every day.
It is. It's great, but I enjoy doing it. So, shooey with you guys. Tracy's not in here yet?
He's
dialing
in.
in.
He's right now.
All right.
He's coming in. Here he is. Tracy Jones, 29. The big 2-9.
The best 30 minutes in television every Tuesday and Thursday. Mr. Jones, a.k.a. Mr. 29, a.k.a. Mr. Worldwide, a.k.a. Hawthorne, California. How's it going, Tracy?
Good. I apologize. I'm late. I'm never late. You know, back in the minors, Reed, you like this.
Yeah.
If you were late, now think about this. I was bringing home my first year in minor league baseball, $232. I was late 7 minutes for a practice before a game, and I was fined $7. It was $1 a minute every time you were late. So I owe you guys $3.
Did you
Put it
have
on
to
my
give
tab.
that to the manager? Do you give that to the organization? Who are you giving that money to?
Great question. It went to the manager, and who in the hell knows what he did? We probably went to a strip bar, and we were in Tampa, so there were some really good strip bars. I don't know what happened to that. But back when the Reds had all those really good young players, and it was such a strict organization, Reed, we'd get fined for, and I'm not exaggerating, I know sometimes I exaggerate on this show, but this is the truth, being late, $1 a minute. Missing a cutoff man was $5. Not wearing underwear was $3.
How would they know that?
not wearing, that questions the manager, doesn't it? What's he look? He's not a meat gazer, is he? I mean, you got to call him.
What are we doing here? You got panty
I don't
liners?
know. A $2 if you don't wear socks, and if you miss curfew, and you're not in your bed check, home or away, it was $100.
So if it was $100 every time you missed bed check, you spent about $3,000 a month on missed bed checks?
Well, here's, you know who my roommate was? Was Rob Dibble. So needless to say, so here we go. So we're in Tampa, and Dibbs and I are, we're out. We're running the streets really, really hard. He has more energy than any person I've ever been around. And a great guy, very generous. You wouldn't think that, but he's a really good guy. So our manager, Mark Bombard, comes and checks in at home, to see if we are doing a bed check at 12 o'clock at night. Well, Dibbs and I are out at some bar having a good time. He comes back the next day. I see our manager. He says, I just want you to know, he got all the team together. He says, I'm going to find Dibble and I'm going to find Jones for missing curfew. I says, I swung by your apartment. You guys weren't there. I says, you're full of shit. I ain't paying it. I says, let me tell you something. I said, we're in first place. Second of all, I'm leading the league in hitting. I'm leading the league in stolen bases. And that pitcher right there is the best pitcher in the league. And that was Dibbs. I said, we're not paying it. And we didn't.
Hey.
We didn't.
$100.
I'm making $232. Come on now.
So let me ask you the question. You're making $230 in the minors. You get called up to the show. What's the difference in pay?
Well, when I got called up to the show, I like I said, I led the league in average and stolen bases. I did it again in Double-A, and like each year I would get $100 a month raise. That's what I would get. And so when I finally made it to the big leagues, the minimum salary for a big league player in 1986. Does anybody want to guess? Don't look it up.
Is it like $80,000? I don't know.
Good. 60. $60,000. But the baseball cards, you know how baseball cards were real popular back in the 80s?
Yeah.
We would get a check in spring training. I think one check was $47,000. That's pretty cool.
From the baseball card company?
Yeah, from Topps and Donruss and Fleer and all those cards. So that
Bowman,
was
Upper Deck,
something.
right?
And I never spent money, guys. I always saved my money. So that was a lot of money back in those days. Not like it is now.
If you didn't spend money, how did you go to the casinos and strip clubs? Would they give you money to go there? Because you were such a celebrity?
I have to think about it. A lot of times we knew the doorman and we would snake in. It was really bad, especially in Montreal, especially in Tampa. Tampa was I don't know if you guys have ever been to Tampa, but Tampa's a great place, great nightlife.
Yeah, my sister just moved back up from Tampa, but she's not much of a partier, Tracy. So we've been talking all show, the trade deadline, and we've asked you these questions before, but let's go a little deeper. A lot of talk's been talked about Jonathan India, and we know your take on it. As someone who's been in a clubhouse, how much merit is there to the quote-unquote leader? If a guy like Jonathan India, who's been one of the more tenured guys on the team, who's been the face of the team for a couple years now, if he gets traded, how much merit is that it might kill a locker room, quote-unquote?
I don't think it'll kill a locker room with this team. I know Jonathan India, people love him, but I just read something that Dylan Cease trade. Did you see that?
Dylan Cease got traded?
No, but that's a proposed trade.
Oh, yeah.
India, Marti, and that really good pitcher in A-ball that came over in the Tyler Malley.
Chase Petty.
Tyler Malley? That trade from the Twins. He's a number 1 draft pick. I would not make that trade. That's a lot to give up for that pitcher.
The White Sox said that Cease is not available.
Yeah, ever since Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez have been traded, they have said that Dylan Cease is staying put. So Cease isn't somebody that they're going to move from.
But it is tough for a player, and you saw where Jonathan India had to take a day off, right? Because he kind of felt the pressure, the uncertainty. So he took, a day off, which I've never heard before. How did he categorize that or something? Just a mental day off?
Mental day. You didn't have any mental days, Tracy?
No. If I was listen, I sat the bench a lot, So if I thought I was going to be in the lineup, I wanted to make sure I was ready to go. That was not a good opportunity to have a mental day. I had enough of those sitting on the bench.
Tracy, you were traded 4 times. What is the conversation like between a manager, between a franchise, when they call you in and let you know, hey, we've given your contract to another team?
They never called me in. I would get a call about 1:30, usually around June 16th, 17th, or 18th, and it would be the general manager, and he'd say, Trace, you've been traded. I said, good. Where am I going? And he says, you're going to Montreal. I says, good. It's got to be a lot better than here in Cincinnati. So then I get traded from Montreal. Dombrowski calls me the general manager. Says, Trace, you've been traded. I said, where? He says, to the Giants. Says, good. When do I leave? Then I got traded to the Giants. Got traded again. Al Rosen, the general manager, calls me. Trace, you've been traded. Where? To the, where did I go?
Mariners.
Tigers. Did I go? Tigers.
Tigers.
Mariners
Tigers.
Yeah. So it happened one more time. Bill LaJoy, the general manager, called me. He says, Trace, you've been traded. Sparky wants you out of here. I says, okay, good. Where am I going? He says, you're going to the Mariners. I says, I always loved the Pacific Coast. I love it. It's so great. I always wanted to play with Griffey, so I was traded. But it is kind of it's tough because people are kind of dumping on you, right? They don't want you. But the way you look at it, in my case, everybody wanted me, right? Barry Larkin, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for a guy like Johnny Bench. They only played for one team.
Right.
So what does that say? Cal Ripken, Tony Gwynn. I mean, I think it just tells you really that someone wants you when you're traded 5 times.
Yeah, think of it in the same way with relationships, right? If you stay with one woman for forever, it just means you're not desirable, right? Like if you gotta have multiple marriages.
Speaking of that, can I compliment Casey? Casey, you have really upped your game. My wife saw you the other day. She was watching the podcast. She didn't realize how handsome you are. And I'm a little jealous. You've cleaned yourself up. You've lost some weight. I mean, do you ever regret maybe you should have done this before you got married? Because you look really, really, my wife, coming from my wife, said you look really handsome. Any thoughts on that, Case?
Well, I'm not cleaned up right now at the current moment, but when I do tend to get a lot of eyes. So I try to not do that often because I don't want those eyes on me.
Right.
That's right. Casey's a dedicated man, Tracy.
Committed man.
Committed. Very committed.
Well, it's like this. You're all cleaned up. You lose weight. I bet you got on clean underwear. Good chance you're not having an affair already 3 months into the marriage, right? Slow it down, Casey.
Yeah, slow it down.
No. I mean, I'm a very loyal man. I would never, ever,
absolutely not,
ever think about seeing other women.
Paul, what about you? What about that girl you had at the game the other night? What was the story there?
Yeah, she was so nice. She was so nice. She was a lovely woman, Tracy. She was a lovely woman. I'm glad you introduced me to her.
Do you have her number?
Yeah, I do have her number, but every time I call, it just ends up. It says T Jones, and then it just ends up. Maybe it says Danae. I don't know. That's just where it ends up.
Oh, hey now! How dare you?
I've never seen Paul spar like this.
I'm telling you, she had a really nice body. A very, like we used to say in baseball, a clean hiney, if you know what I'm talking about.
Good for you, Tracy.
Tracy, you mentioned, you alluded to when you were telling the stories about you getting traded, and I liked how you gave a little jab to the general manager, like, I don't want to be here anyways. Get me out of here. You mentioned that Sparky Anderson didn't want you in Detroit. Did you not get along with old Spark?
I don't know how that turned, but Sparky went to Bill LaJoy, the general manager, and says, we got to trade him. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if I said something or did something, but Sparky wanted me gone. And the only thing that I can remember is I came in 2 days before I was traded, and I said, Spark, don't give up on me. I said, I'm starting to hit, starting to feel it. And we talked for about 5 minutes, and he let me out of the office. But here's the thing with Sparky. You never have a meeting like that. You never come into his office and start talking about your situation. He warned me about that 2 years or a year earlier, and I did it. And it wasn't an argument or anything or questioning him.
Right.
I was just saying, don't give up on me. And Sparky didn't like that. That's the only thing that I could think of, because I really liked it in Detroit. Detroit was really good. I like a lot of things about that. I love the ballpark. Have you guys ever been to Tiger Stadium, old Tiger Stadium?
I actually was telling someone about this. Tiger Stadium, you talk about the old famous ballparks that are no longer here, Ebbets Field, Polo Grounds in New York, all these fields that are gone. Not enough people talk about Tiger Stadium, and I truly think that the Tigers should have made a greater effort to refurbish the stadium, because it'd be so cool if that was still around.
Well, you guys, and I know you guys love your baseball, and just to walk into Tiger Stadium, and you could actually, I know as people are going to say it's corny, you could actually smell the grass. It was just so neat. That was baseball. The fans were so close to the players. In fact, you would have a pole. Some of your seats, there were poles that you really couldn't see the field. You had to duck around them. They had the overhang in right field.
Yeah.
It was just, it was the best old ballpark, in my opinion. And it was fun to play. It was a great hitter's park. I think left center was like 365. And great guys on the team, too. Really liked the players. Jack Morris, Trammell. There was never a better teammate than Trammell. Lou Whitaker, Frank Tanana, some great, Cecil Fielder. Great
Cecil
guy.
Fielder, right?
Yep.
Behind Sparky, who was your favorite manager that you played for?
All in all, if I look back at it, I liked Pete. I know Pete was tough on me, and he was a bit of a front runner, but I at least he gave me the opportunity to play in the big leagues. I like Buck Rogers. The only manager that I didn't get along with was Roger Craig. And it wasn't Rogers' fault. It was my fault. I was hitting a .189. It's tough to make an argument for playing when you're hitting under 200, hitting under the Mendoza line, right?
Right, absolutely. It's tough to do. So, Tracy, the Reds went 3-10 against the Brewers. Back in your playing career, was there ever a team that you felt like you were on an equal playing field with? Feel like you were just as talented as I believe the Reds are as the Brewers? They're just completely different teams. Was there ever a team that you just couldn't get over the hump with? And why do you think that was?
Astros, the Houston Astros. We just couldn't get over the hump with the Astros. A couple years they won the championship. But you start figuring out when you have Nolan Ryan, Mike Scott, who was the Cy Young Award winner, Danny Darwin, who was a pretty tough right-handed pitcher, and Bob Knepper. Those were your four guys, and they had some good guys out of the bullpen. You realize that they had a better team. Remember, it's the pitching, and that, guys, that's what happened to the Reds with the Brewers. I mean, the Brewers have I told you this last time I was on Tuesday. I told you how good that bullpen was, right? They completely shut down the Reds. And the Reds are fine. I don't know if you know this stat. I know I'm starting to sound kind of dorky with all the stats. But, the Reds pitching staff is third in baseball since the All-Star break. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
their starting pitching's been fantastic.
So I would not do anything as far as the trading deadline unless I could pick up a couple of relief pitchers. I would not give up any of those good young players. The Reds are set for years.
Yeah, the name that keeps being thrown around is Jonathan India, and when you think about packages that you can potentially get, the most likely package is that you trade them for some prospects and you keep looking forward to the future. I've said for a while now that the best pitchers, the best additives to the roster that are going to come back are guys that are already on the team. They're just coming back from injury. TJ Antone, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Vladimir Gutierrez, who I just was reminded that he might be coming back too. Once those guys come back, this team is just as, maybe not just as talented. That's an oversight. But they're equally, they have talent in the bullpen and the starting rotation, not just in the lineup. And this team is a complete team.
Yeah. Reed, you said something that's kind of, and I'm sure people chiming in don't like what you just said, about trading for good young pitchers and continue the rebuild. If I'm the general manager and you're really gutsy, that is actually the move I would make. I wouldn't put it into some, third guy in the rotation that it never works out. I mean, how many times do teams get a pitcher and the guy really comes in, helps the team. They get in the playoffs, they get in the World Series, and win it all. I mean, Max Scherzer did a nice job for the Dodgers, right, when he was traded from Washington. But then in the World Series, he didn't pitch a couple games, right? So it just never works out. I think the Reds are fine. They're fine.
Right. They don't need to make big moves. Yeah, you look at the best rental trades in the history. Randy Johnson going to the Houston Astros. The Astros didn't make the World Series. CeCe Sabathia going over to the Milwaukee Brewers. He was fantastic for the Milwaukee Brewers back in 2008, but the Brewers didn't do a whole lot in the postseason either. So these rental moves, they oftentimes don't make a huge impact to the team. So
yeah, you've got to watch it because you don't want a Larry Anderson for Jeff Bagwell or a Doyle Alexander for John Smoltz, right? I mean, I know that goes, but those are just been horrible trades. Hey, I got a question, and maybe you guys can help me out. I mean, I do
would
so
love
much
to answer your question.
I'm so selfless, and people don't have to pay for this show. I think we should charge people. They can at least smash it and like this show.
Right.
But I have a question because I'm thinking about, not that I need the money, but I know you guys know the answer, and it's embarrassing that I don't know the answer. How do you bet on baseball? And would I be allowed to bet on baseball now that I'm not a player?
Well, the best way that you can bet on baseball is opening up the Betfred Sportsbook app. But are you asking what bets are we taking when we bet on baseball?
Yeah, what is it? How do you, because in football it's just straight up. They give you 3 points, take away 3 points. How does that work in baseball? I don't know.
There's two different ways. You can bet on the team just to win, and it's not a 1-for-1. You normally, like, if a team's heavily favored, you're only going to get half of what you bet. So if it's minus 200, you got to bet $200 to win 100, stuff like that. But they also have a thing called the run line, which works just like a spread in football, and saying that the Reds are going to win by 2 runs. And then also over-unders, and then you get into the player props. Like, is Tracy Jones going to hit a home run today? That was always a sure thing. But, yeah, there's multiple ways to bet. If you were to bet, Tracy, you're a gambler. I know you're a gambler, but you haven't really dabbled in the whole sports book scene. At least I didn't think that about you. Are you telling me you're going to start putting some wagers on the Cincinnati Reds?
Man, I'm really thinking about it and I think I can make some money off it because remember, I see things that you people don't see. And playing for 5 major league teams, I think if you look at my body of work, I think I have a lot of expertise. I just would like to put a little action on the Reds. And I know all the sports betting, now it's out there. Can you actually place bets at Reds games? This is how clueless I am.
There is a sports book at Great American Ballpark, a competing sports book with Betfred Sportsbook. Yeah, but out in left center field, or on the left field foul pole, there is a sports book there. Actually, if you remember the sports story from a couple months ago where the Alabama head baseball coach, he was helping people bet there.
I was just going to bring that up because that guy actually, I think, was an assistant coach at Kentucky and recruited Hunter a couple times, and I've talked to him. He's I think he was a pitching coach. Maybe, I don't know, but I think he coached at Kentucky and got the job at Alabama. But how about that? To be betting on college baseball. I think it was Alabama against LSU, wasn't it?
Correct.
I think it was that.
Yes.
And so he had control of the pitching, and he got fired for that. You just wonder how many other, college kids are betting on games now. Kind of a little scary, I think.
Yeah, we're going to keep seeing more and more athletes come out and get in trouble for betting. You mentioned Hunter. That's your son, correct?
Right.
It's a good time to have a son named Hunter in this country right now, Tracy. What
your thoughts, Tracy Jones?
Tracy, are we going to have to check your son's laptop? What's on your son's laptop?
I don't want him checking my laptop, and
we know that.
Doors.
Probably on Xbox.
You know what? It's all right if your name's Hunter and your dad's the president.
You're the president of the HOA, right?
I've dropped out of that. I just couldn't get the votes. I'm not real well liked in the building. I didn't know that. Surprise
what? You got a smile that just warms everyone, Tracy. How could no one like? Yeah. I mean, you're a California boy. You're from Hawthorne, California, the most famous blonde from Hawthorne, California.
Hawthorne, California. Well, it's brushed nickel. It actually used to be blonde, if you can believe it. I had a woman in the building stop me, and she says, "I just love the color of your hair. How did you get it so white?" It's like,
do you dye?
No, what it is stress. Stress.
Stress.
Yes.
What are you stressed about? You're a 5-time. You played for 5 MLB teams, Tracy. There's no stress there.
Well, there was a little stress when I watched my kid play on TV every single night for 10 years. So watching Hunter play, he's a good player. It's just players are so much better nowadays. I don't know if you guys really realize that. When I played, there were pitchers that like had the 4th or 5th guy in a rotation. They were hittable. You could get fat off those guys. Now the pitching's so much better. I mean, now your 5th starter is Lodolo, throwing 94 and a left-hander. We used to face 85-mile-an-hour left-handers, 5th man in the rotation. That's where you get fat. But the players are so good, especially watching TV. One of my son's roommates was Juan Soto. I mean, you watch Juan Soto play. I mean, my God. He's off a little bit this year, but, man, what a hitter. I mean, those guys are freak of nature.
And still only 24 years old. You mentioned that the talent level has gotten so much better. I remember being a kid, and my dad told me, you're coming up through the youth ranks. He's like, if you throw 90 miles an hour, you're going to get drafted. That was what he said to me. You throw 90 miles an hour, you're going to get drafted. Almost every high school team in this area has a guy that throws 90 miles an hour now. It's absolutely incredible, Tracy.
90 used to be the speed where you could get drafted, certainly at 92. But now, I mean, guys are throwing 90. Think about the bullpen. Think about how hard those guys. I mean, you have the guy in the 6th inning, he's throwing 95. Then you got the setup guy, he's throwing 98. And then you got the closer throwing 100. I mean, Williams, example, with the Brewers, right? Because I've watched him pitch.
Yep.
I mean, that slider, I couldn't hit that guy's slider. And he give me 100 at bats, I couldn't hit that slider. Probably not the fastball either. I mean, these guys are really, really good.
It depends if it was your first 100 at bats, because you would have had at least 39 hits against that slider.
You know what? I really get tired of talking about my first 100 at bats. I mean, we thought McClain was going to break that record. I mean, 35 is pretty good, but not 37. And who had 37 hits out of the first 100? What was his name? Mr. 29.
Mr. 29. Mr. 29.
Mr. 29.
Final question I got for you, Tracy, and it's off the world of sports. Did you see yesterday that a guy testified before Congress basically saying that aliens exist?
Oh, that's actually, they had 3 whistleblowers. And I was going to bring this up, and I didn't, people get all mad wanting to just talk about sports. I've been talking about, when I had that afternoon show, I talked about it all the time. There's 3, they actually say they have aliens, bodies, right? They have it stored.
Right.
And this is it, because I'm kind of an expert. There's 3 types of aliens. There's the tall whites, look like Jim Carrey, look like Paul.
Look like Paul.
Paulie could look tall white. You have the grays, and then the little known, the short yellows. So yeah, you have 3 types of aliens.
It's incredible.
I
don't know if anything's going to come. Right, no one's going to talk about it. It's so weird today that all these huge things come out in the news and they just get swept under the rug because Kim Kardashian launched some new line or something like that. Everything just gets swept under.
Actually, I think the alien story is like the biggest story, right? Because if they want to wipe us out, they could do that. And it's just, I believe in all that stuff. I believe in Bigfoot, Chupacabra, Mothman. USOs, unidentified submerged objects, are in the Ohio River. I see them all the time after a couple of shots of tequila late at night. It's got that light shining all out.
I thought you were a vodka man.
Well, that's the problem. I'm fine on vodka, but I start drinking the tequila, I start seeing things.
USOs. All right, Tracy. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Reds got a big series against the Dodgers, so they got a couple wins.
Big series, but the Brewers have a tough series against the Braves too. So kind of. There you go. Hey, have a good weekend, boys.
See you, Tracy. See you. You notice that Tracy didn't bring up the Chicago Cubs, right? He must not be on X.com because that's all people are talking about on X.com is how good the Chicago Cubs are. Guys, do we have a cherry on top to tie a bow on this show?
We do. I do. It's kind of a very late submission to this cherry on top, so give me a second.
I'm a little nervous.
So we talked about the scuffle between Trey Hendrickson and Orlando Brown Jr. Look at the man's neck.
gosh.
I know.
Put the claws away. Put them away.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
He tried to go for the kill. Right for the jugular.
That's the jugular.
And we got Orlando Brown versus Trey Hendrickson for 3 more years in Cincinnati. It's awesome.
Nickname Wolverine.
He's smiling. He's smiling.
He signed an extension the next day.
I love that.
He's happy.
I love that.
Happy to be here.
Was that the Bengals saying like, "Hey, we're sorry about what happened. We're sorry what happened yesterday. You want to play for us? Here's a $1 million."
We have bad workman's comp.
Actually, he's getting less money.
Oh,
he's adding an extra year. He's less cap hit this year. So Logan Wilson, T. Higgins, watch out.
Man.
None of the cap moves have anything to do with Burrow. I'm standing by that. Burrow's going to get done one way or the other. Mixon and Hendrickson now, those other 2 contracts are getting done.
Yeah, we talked about what other players were going to do team-friendly deals. My mind didn't even think about Trey Hendrickson, but this is great. This is great.
I mean, his contract was set up perfectly for him to be quote-unquote selfish, taking a 1-year run into Super Bowl in Cincinnati and then cashing in on 2 amazing years when he's been being paid greatly under the production he's putting out. But no, he decides to be here, and that just continues to push the narrative of what Jermaine Pratt did, of what Joe Mixon did, hopefully what these guys are going to continue to do, of recognizing that we have something special here and sticking around.
I'm so excited for the future.
I'm juiced, man.
Future of this city is undeniably bright. All the professional sports teams are looking great. And, the college programs, we'll see about Scott Satterfield. But everything else, very bright times here in the Queen City. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 a. We got Jacob hosting, right?
Oh, boy.
Mac
Let's
on the
go,
mic
Jacob.
next week.
Last
We're all
day,
just taking
Jacob.
a lap around.
Last day, Jacob.
boy.
Let's go.
I'm locked in.
Let's go.
We'll start
I'm
planning
excited
it the second this show gets off air.
I'm sure we will.
Yes, we will. See you guys. This has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll see you tomorrow.